Welcome in, guys. Welcome in to the first. Is it? It's not the first. It's the second. We've got a secret one which we're going to upload to YouTube a little bit later. But this is the second in conversation with the Saturday Night Experience for Aid 2023 live in Amsterdam. We're here at Feed Amsterdam, up in the studio room. We're going to do a party tomorrow in this room and downstairs. But hey, right now we're just going to talk to some people. And first off, I mean, we got two interviews today. Let me tease David Harness a little bit later. That's coming up in about an hour. We'll probably keep him waiting because, you know, it's me. I'm joking. But right now we have the man, Marshall Jones from DanceGruv Radio. If you don't know about Marshall, you're about to find out about Marshall. So, my name's Coley. I've got Aurea Bella standing on a chair in front of me. Not standing on a chair, that'd be slightly odd, but you know, she's here. We're going to ask some questions. We're going to hang out and just vibe. Who is Saturday Night Experience? Is that you? Oh, you've logged in. Okay, interesting. Anyway, this is not your super professional vibe, right? We're house heads. We love the culture, and that's why we do this. So with that, let me shut up for a minute and let's talk to Marshall about some things. All right, guys. So yeah, welcome, Marshall.
Hey,
Pleasure to have you here, sir.
How you doing?
Move this microphone a little bit.
Okay.
So we're putting this out on YouTube. We're putting this out on Twitch. Basically, I think as these kind of conversations start, we kind of learn a little bit about you. So could you give me a brief synopsis of I don't know where you started, what came about, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So I pretty much always been a music lover, just because my parents having a big, huge vinyl collection, tapes, 8 tracks, things of that nature. So when my parents split, they always still had like music at either house. But as I grew up and would visit New York to see some family over the summers, and then back in North Carolina during my school years, I would listen to all types of music, but I was a big hip hop head, of course. But my sister, she was always watching Club MTV with Downtown Julie Brown, and so I would hear different club tracks from the 90s. And that kind of made me familiar with things just like disco from my parents. But as I started, in high school, I started listening to more club music too, but didn't tell anybody because that wasn't the cool thing to do. Little did they know, right? And little did I know. But I listened to just certain things, and next thing you know, I just kind of fell in love with it. And once I graduated and started kind of you separate from the knuckleheads and riffraff that you were around in high school, I just started getting more in depth with dance music. And about 99, when I graduated, I was like, yeah, this is something I can get down with. So my friend told me, Austin Hillhouse, shout out to him, he was like, hey, have you ever seen MTV's Amp? And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, no, it comes on at 2 a.m. We're going to watch it. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So he turns it on, and one of the first videos was Are You There by Josh Wink. And that was it. I was sold. From there, Chemical Brothers, Daft Punk. Then it was Frankie Bones, Heather Hart, Adam X, Dave Angel. So I was really into techno. And it was just one of those things. And so just so happened the rave people and family that I was into, we was all based out of Gotham in Chapel Hill, and one of the main DJs in North Carolina ran that place. So we were B-boys and B-girls, and I had my own dance crew, and then next thing you know, that just kind of formed into a promotional team for the club. So they would just pay us to go up and down the East Coast, different raves and things like that. And then just so happens he was playing at a major festival or rave at Tabernacle in Atlanta, and this was probably 2000. And so Josh Wink was playing. And little did I know that they were already talking how much I love that man. They were like, "Oh, he is like, yeah, he's one of your biggest fans." So, ended up, I met him, and then I ended up finding out that they have an internship, and he was like, "Would you like to be an intern for Ovum?" And I was like, yeah. So ended up, I started working directly with the street team for Ovum, working with King Britt, working with Josh Wink, and that just
Dozio?
yeah, Dozy. I've done some projects for him, and it was just on from there. At that point, it was that kind of started paving the way, and then roundabout when I went off to college, so this is 2003. I went to Full Sail in Orlando, and right around that time, they were stopping their street team, but they appreciate the work I did, and they appreciate like my enthusiasm and like me wanting to be a DJ and stuff. And so they were like, "Well, we know a guy in Chicago. They're looking for interns, and we can probably get you in. Here's an email that you need to send to them." And this is 2003, so it's not like Gmail world. So here we're still Yahooing it. So I sent them an email, and the guy replied, and it was Jeff Craven from Large Music. So that just took me on another internship that just literally opened the door. And
So what was you know what? I'm 45 years old, and all things start to merge. So 2003 on Large Music, what was the music?
Oh,
man. There was like, you had the Roy Davis, you had the Kerry Chandlers. Was that 2003 or was that a little bit earlier?
So around about 2002.
Digital era, right?
Yeah, you're starting to we in 2002 we're starting to be in this vinyl, slowly moving over to like this digital, because for all the, I guess, Gen Zs or whatever, the younger ones, there was a thing called Napster, and we would quote unquote get music from there. Nowadays you might call it pirating, but that was how we got music. And the birth of the MP3, the mini disc players, all that stuff. So it was starting to convert, but 2002, 2003, definitely you had like your Kerry Chandler, Roy Davis Jr., Dennis Ferrer, Miguel Miggs, God, who else? You had like Mark Grant. You had, what's their names? Solar House. You had, I mean, there were just so many. The Rurals, like all this deep house from then was just raw. Richard LaCrease, everybody.
It was one of my favorite. I mean, all that Dennis Ferrer stuff he put out on Large. It's like literally, I still play it. I'm not going to say it's the best stuff he's ever done, because that just sounds shady, right? But like, no, it's literally, I still pull out like NJF, all those tunes. Colors is one of my favorite jams.
Oh
forever.
Man,
it's just such a vibe, right?
Yo.
And then you got Palisade Park on the other side. Like, no, so that's really interesting. I mean, I was a big, I was in London. We had record stores. We still buying that stuff. I kind of skipped away from the kind of digital stuff. I've only just become digital, and that's because records are just so expensive now. Super crazy prices. I was thinking, should I go get the Louis Vega thing? I was like, no, it's 60 euros. And I'm good, man. I'm good. But no, that's super interesting. So at this point, you're kind of you're interning at Large. You're dealing with, I guess, Track Source, and there was something called Stompy, right?
So back then, Track Source was starting to come up. Living in Florida at the time and working with like Jask. Big shout out to him. This is like my big brother too. I would be going to Tampa, but like right in Fort Lauderdale was Track Source. So that was, Brian Tappert, Sheldon Prince. And so we would see those guys at shows, book them every now and then. So it was starting to come up around that time, but it was when Large Music decided I should move to Chicago so I can work in the office. That was when I got my hands like into converting from that to actual MP3, and then sending that like libraries of files over to Track Source to upload to the site for purchase. That was like the biggest project I had, and it was actually the coolest project too, because just having that background and graduating with a recording arts degree, it was like I'm literally taking these masters, and actually converting them to be purchased across the world. And so there was things that I've heard from like Carrie Chandler that will never see the light of day, but like you have it and you could play it out, but you will like people can't buy it. So it's kind of crazy to know I have like this whole backlog, and I've heard this whole backlog of just different stuff, and it's amazing.
What was the what was the I mean, you were doing sales, right? So what was the sales like at that point?
So I mean,
were a lot of people converting to MP3?
Yeah, so that's a weird thing, right?
It was vinyl, but then it kind of was moving into MP3.
Yeah,
and I mean, I saw something yesterday, like now 89% of all music is streamed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's just mad. Like,
yeah,
I was on Traxsource yesterday buying tunes, but ultimately, what was it like around 2003? The kind of the mix of people still using vinyl and people still moving to digital.
It was like, I would say for what I saw, it was a lot of the times still the DJs that were playing around town were vinyl. Still some of the DJs playing across states, vinyl. You go to like Winter Music Conference, where I will always go, and you're seeing the bigger DJs playing on CDJs.
Yeah.
You're seeing the clubs buying these like, CDJs.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was expensive, and it wasn't as accessible as it is now. I mean, like now, if you want to go and get, a pair of 3000s, you can go do that. But back then, trying to get a pair of whatever that model was, I mean, it was like you got to know somebody who works at Pioneer. It was still that kind of industry. But as time went on, you just saw people started to do more MP3s, and you started seeing like the Traxsource coupons while you're in your grab bag for WMC, and you're like giddy. You're like, oh my God, I got 20% off. And, you still see Uncle Sam Records, and you will still see that still on like in Miami. You will still see Drop Shop in Orlando. And you will see Traxsource things come up, but over time you did start to see the merge of the MP3 and how DJs were converting, and you started seeing, it's kind of bittersweet, but you started seeing the record stores slimming down or closing, and that was kind of a weird thing.
No, I was shadowing Francois K a lot at that point, and he was on some next level. So we was on the deep space forum, so like underground NYC. Then you kind of move to deep space, and then he's just giving these long posts about. As people were moving to MP3, he was like, don't do MP3, just got it straight to WAV. And I'm like, dude, we haven't got that storage pack. Like, how do we go to WAV? Like, but now you've got all these, you've got that kind of storage that everyone can play WAV.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take 600 tunes, or 6,000 tunes, but who needs 6,000 tunes? But no, it's super interesting to live through all of this. And now you get to the point where, like people are just streaming music.
Yeah.
It's just super random.
Random. I think that, of course you got to embrace technology in this industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things.
That's why I use Denon.
Yeah, right. Like, but still, it works. And like you just got to use what you can and embrace the technology. But I will say this: I think that the industry definitely needs to relook at how the streaming is done, as well as paying out the artists. I think that a lot of the top 40 major artists are talking about that, but the thing about them that's different for our community and our movement is that they are going to be able to have the big, Warner Brothers pushing behind them. We are definitely a community and a movement that is well much like homegrown. And we put our artists out there, and we believe in our artists, and we support, and granted there are a few, your Cascades and your Tiestos, like they're going to have the bigger record labels pushing their stuff, but the streaming platforms not really kicking back to these like smaller artists in a sense. And that can hurt us. So I think like it is very important, even if you're a fan of like somebody who's up and coming or a major DJ, buy their stuff. Like don't just stream it from Spotify, like buy it. and then put it, because that's going to support them in the long run.
Yeah, no, of course. And you've got things like Bandcamp this week just kind of going south, right?
Yeah, love Bandcamp though.
Yeah, well, as long as it stays where it is, we're in a good place. But I mean, I was reading Demure the other day, and he was like, you know what? I told you this was going to happen.
Yep.
I'm moving to Patreon. And like, I mean, that's next level, right? It's like, okay, so now we got to go to all the Patreon stores. Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, Demir and Sneak were the ones that kind of were like, I'm gonna just put this out here. And it was during the pandemic. Like it was like some post and everybody was like, wait a minute, they're pulling their stuff off of the store. What? And I'm like, oh, and I was like, well, if you know the understanding like how the industry works, I think a lot of people don't, you know what I mean? That I was like, okay, I can kind of see what they're doing. I get it, and I support it, because, I mean, if you could build your own website, I can go buy the tracks directly from you.
Yeah,
I kind of understand that, you know.
And there are people that do that, right? You know, you got Kai, you got Kemet. Kemet does have a website.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you need to own your storefront.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think the Bandcamp thing that's just come up this week, it shows that if you just focus on someone else's thing, it gets taken away.
Yeah.
You know, we're all on Instagram right now. I'm not on. Well, I'm kind of on TikTok. Keeps on showing me naked ladies. That's not my vibe. But we're all on these platforms, right, to try and kind of elevate ourselves, but we don't own anything.
Right.
And you know, one of the things that I've constantly done in my life is embrace these things. But you know, you need an email database. You need some kind of thing that you can take away from all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it you know, it is super important.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from a person that owns an online radio station, and like I'm constantly building with, you know, every fiber of my being and looking at the industry, and people they're like, well, you know, why do you operate this way? I'm like, well, I have industry knowledge, direct industry knowledge. Like, it's not like I just read a book. Like, I was in there. I've seen contracts. I've seen how clubs work. I've seen, you know, I do events. A lot of these major artists are still my best friends and teachers to this day. And I'm always going to be a student. Mm-hmm. So I operate in a way that I'm learning. So then that way it's like my station, pretty much like people coming to me, how do I get on DanceGruv Radio? And I'm like, well, either I've got to hear you live, or somebody that's on the station can vouch for you, because it's the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah.
And I also, like, right now building out a store for like every artist to have at least like 5 items. So then if you are part of a DanceGruv, you know, team, and you're a DJ on our station, like, you get your own store. Mm-hmm. Like, and 75% of that money, so if you sell, I don't know, $300 of like your merch, you know, 75% of that money is yours. Why? Yeah. Well, it's your time that's invested making the show. You're the one buying the tracks. I mean, like, is your electricity that you're using to put a show together, you should get something back.
Yeah. No, that's I think during my Twitch career, I've understood the notion of I had people right. Can you imagine? What do I tell my grandchildren? Well, what, you know? No, I'm joking. No, but there were so many people at the beginning of the pandemic going, "You need to get hoodies, you need to get T-shirts, you need to do," and I'm like, "Who's going to do this? Who is going to do this?" Mm-hmm. I'm so slow. I've got a T-shirt.
But it's good.
But it's a pretty fly T-shirt.
I'm
going to say this: like, AI changed the game a little bit. But you still need the eye for the art, right? You need the eye, you know. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's designers out there going, mate.
I'll buy one. I'll buy one. Done. You heard it here. I'm buying one.
See. And we talk about Saturday Night Experience merch, right? But TT, she's just always needs to be dope, you know. It needs to be dope.
Oh yeah, TT.
Yeah. No, anyway. So DanceGruv Radio. That's kind of your project, right?
Yeah.
So. How's that going?
It's crazy. So the streamlining of it, like, over the pandemic, I realized a couple of things. Lockdown, I realized some things I wanted to tweak. Didn't really have the time to, but I always kind of had make a list, because I'm always constantly like looking at things. So once I like streamline a couple of things, it's going great. You know, having the syndication ability for all the bigger artists it's awesome because most people are like, oh, they should do an exclusive show, and it's like, do you understand? Like, they probably got 9 other radio stations they got working with, like, so to be able to be like, hey, I'll syndicate you, and then like everybody else that I know, that's respectfully like kings and queens in their own areas, like I'll let them have a show, up and coming people around my area, stuff like that. But like it's going great, and just having the abilities now to like look at a couple of things that I'm going to do, like some secret parties I'm going to be doing around town, where it's just going to be pretty much like 30 people. And it's going to be more about like having those up and coming talents to be able to do something and live stream it. So to be able to do that, and then just the bigger events we call transmissions. I've done a couple of those. I've been doing those for a while, and then I kind of did 2 this year, and I'm like, all right, pull back a little bit. But I mean, for it to be a project that started in 2010 and then stopped in 2013 and then relaunched in 2015, I mean, with the technology advancing, it's a lot easier now.
No, I had a radio station for about 3 years on Live 365, and it was just like I loved doing it. It was great. You program loads of different things. I was doing jazz, I was doing house, but just the way everything's maneuvered, so now you can just drag and drop programming. It's just such a different world.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting there uploading individual tracks, and then it was and it cost me a lot of money. But it's. Can I ask you how do you market DanceGruv Radio?
I mean, pretty much.
Is it just social? Or?
Well, I mean, like social media obviously is a big dinosaur. That is going to like rumble through the jungle. But I also talking to people, stickers, buttons. Whatever you do, like if you see somebody having a good time at one of our events, like you're getting a sticker, you're getting something, and like you just kind of shoot the jazz with them and talk, and so I'm a firm believer social media works, but I'm also a firm believer in actual contact with people, like face to face, or like putting stuff up. Like I don't understand why people think posting bills, aka putting flyers up in the street, doesn't really work anymore. I'm like, no, that is a big thing that still happens, and people just goes right over the head. I'm like, no, you have to have both worlds. It's just like we have, the way we have streaming and the way we have actual live things. Like you got to mix the two up. Like just because one dominates the other now because it's the newest thing doesn't mean the old way goes. So I still put up posters in the streets and things like that.
Yeah. No, for me, it's you can be on social media, but you have to be active, not passive. And I think there's a lot of people that are passive. I think through what we've done with Saturday Night Experience, what I personally do with some of the other things I do, if you're active and you're messaging people and you're that annoying guy, right? I'm definitely the annoying guy, but you build the relationship. Whereas the algorithm, it's the algorithm. If you're passive, you kind of got to think, I'm putting this out there, and it's either going to hit or it's not going to hit. And it's interesting about the posters and things, because it feels really old worldy, but people still spend money on billboards, right? And ultimately, if you put a billboard by a motorway, the awareness of that thing is still, me putting some money on a Facebook ad. I don't think it's got the same vibe. You can't control that. I mean, you can't control someone in their car. But anyway, there's a lot more cars. But no, that's super interesting. I'm a massive fan of radio. I do think we're streaming this now. It's on YouTube. There's a video part of this now. I feel there's a chat part of this as well. We used to just kind of sit around listening to radio, and I think as we've progressed, people are now kind of expecting to see maybe someone in the studio or in a dining room, and also having that community kind of chat scenario as well. I think is super important. I DJ for Universal Rhythms for a little while. It's kind of not around. I think it's either on a break, or it might it's not around.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was kind of like the model, the traditional model. But I always thought, if you just kind of built this out a little bit more, and you
Mm-hmm.
build the community around it, it
Yeah,
would become super powerful.
this is
I
true.
mean, because in the UK, there's literally no radio station like what that was. There were people playing Trini, they were playing jazz, they were
Wow.
playing. It was such an amazing radio station.
See, and
But
that's awesome, man.
it's
Like,
that, and
that's kinda cool.
MKL was they were like amazing people as well.
Wow.
Like I miss it. I do miss it.
Well, I
But
mean,
anyway,
extraterrestrial radio, as I like to call it, AM, FM. Like, if you really grew up on that, like it's something about it that you don't want to ever let go. And I tell people like that's how I pretty much my lens is about dance group. Like I remember like listening to Funk Flex or DJ Red Alert during the summer being in Brooklyn and like getting a tape that I need to tape over and putting like the tissue in the little pocket so it can so I can record. You know, I mean, like now we ain't got to do that. Now it's just like click, click, click. Oh, okay, cool. Here's a mix. You know, so it's like you still have to use those nostalgic things because it's like that's what we grew up on with radio, but also like the new style of things too, like with the chat room and all that. Like it's all still there. These components, just like the video aspect, just like being on Twitch or something. It's like all those pieces are still there. It's just now we can do it in an easier way. But if you still have the lens of like the traditional vibe to give people that rush of like a good
Mhm.
warm feeling, like nostalgic radio, like you're
Yeah,
there.
no,
You're
totally.
so there, man. Because like you got to think about it. Like look how you felt talking about the station in the UK, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many people really feel like that now. You know.
Here's a little. I mean, I used to work for a corporate radio station, which was an interesting experience. The way that they operate, the way that they playlist, it's just completely different, and it's all based on metrics and advertising. And I've always been that guy that seeks new music and also appreciates the notion of being in a niche.
Mm-hmm.
Niche, but then we all live in a place where the clear channels, the global radio where I used to work, like they deliver something to you, and it's delivered to the masses. And because it's delivered to the masses and it's easily obtainable, people just start listening to it. And you're going, but there's so much more complex music that is amazing, and you guys are not listening to it. So when you lose those stations that deliver that kind of experience to you, it affects you because I couldn't listen to it live all the time, but I appreciated that it was there, and I appreciated that it was putting people on that had a different narrative.
Yep.
And to me, that so many of my friends were kind of on that station delivering really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I do remember John Bill.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's it, right? The exploration of quality music now is maybe a little bit what is it, hindered,
Yeah.
because of this scenario.
Yeah.
I think we got about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, do you want the microphone?
Big shout outs to TT. What up?
So this is a question from Titi. Thank you very much for your contribution. So this is for you, of course,
Okay.
Marshall. Who is on the roster of DanceGruv and how was it curated?
Oh wow. Okay, so we've got Lars Bernroth from Deeper Shades. I've got Husky from Random Soul, J. Paul Ghetto, Lenny Fontana. Let's see. We've just got Hamera Espinosa. He's coming on board. There's just so many. And then there's pretty much people from all over the world. How we curated it was pretty much like I said. I would either hear these people live, and then like I'll ask them, or like somebody who's already on the station would recommend they'll be like, yeah, this person's got the goods. And then, it's like, well, if this person is willing to say that and I trust this person, then it's going to be good. But that's pretty much how I curate it. Now, genre-wise, I mean, I stick with mostly like house and techno, but I'm branching out to do more like liquid drum and bass and starting to like get those DJs in. That way, like, I want it to be where I guess some people like, oh, it's intelligent dance music. I just don't.
Yes.
I can see that.
That's how it goes.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I curated it. Yeah. That's what we do. Yeah.
Sure. You want to stand out, huh?
Yeah, and I don't want it to be just, I guess, oversaturated with the same styles of stuff. Like, no disrespect to some artists, but it's like, the quote unquote what is called tech house nowadays. Like, no, like, I just can't be bombarded with that. There's too many other artists that are way good. Like, people should know what Deeper Shades of House is. Like, people should know, Lenny Fontana. They should know, like, your Demirs, your J. Paul Ghettos. Like, if you don't know who these people are, like, this is an opportunity for that station to be your home.
Yep.
That's how I want to do it. And all the up and coming people too. Like, you may not know of Johan Yarden, who plays techno. Like, he's a beast in North Carolina. You don't know him, but like, if you listen to the station, you'll hear him. Check out his show, and then it's like,
definitely gonna check.
Yes, turns you on to new people. So,
is anybody from Amsterdam or anybody from Europe that we would know? Or?
Let's see, from Europe, I have a couple people that's like Italy. So I have DJ Andrea Roberto. Let's see, I've got Luke Delight. He's out of France. I've got Carla in the mix. She's with Dejun. She's out of France. I've got, let's see, who else have I got? God, it's just so many.
How many people in your portfolio?
On my roster, probably about 38 to 40. Okay. But before then, it was like 68. And I had to streamline it. So I will say, people, they go in, radio station, let's do this thing. You got a monthly, and then they start realizing like the real work behind it. And
it's commitment.
Yeah. Then when they start to see that, then they kind of back out. So I was like, have to have the discussion, and like, if you really are committed, cool. If you don't want to do it, that's cool too.
And it's a monthly one?
I've got some shows that are monthly. I've got some shows that are weekly. I've got some that are bi-weekly, but music is playing 24/7.
Right. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And who was the first guest after you?
Let's see, the first like major DJ after me. When we started, God, back in 2010. Okay. So that was me, Deep Just, who does Get Open Sessions. We had Max Pella, Ivan Diaz. We had a bunch of people, but like the first artist that we really got that was major was Mario Ramey, and then we got Mark Grant, and then we had Andre Harris. So we had a lot of people from Large.
It's so many I do not know.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And then we did how it kind of put DanceGruv on the map was when there was that earthquake in Japan. Okay. And when that happened, so we had a DJ who was out of Japan. So we were like, let's raise money, and we ended up like linking up with a bunch of people, and one of the people were Black Coffee before. Black Coffee, so. Yeah. But yeah, we did like a 24-hour streaming raise, like $5,000. So.
Titi is asking, anybody from South America?
South America? No, don't have anybody from South America yet. I do have people out of Mexico, but working my way towards that, and I'm working towards now going more like Northwest Pacific and trying to get up in Canada. I do have one guy out of Canada, but I want to start branching out to the west side of Canada. I don't want to stay constantly, in Toronto, Montreal. I want to see what Vancouver's got.
Nice. So you're really expanding. You're growing.
Yeah.
So you
all
were
the time.
60. You're 38 now.
38, yeah, and we were at 67. So streamlining it helped me like keep the real people who can handle the commitment. Now it's all about exploring and finding new places, new countries and things like that, and just seeing like who's in this realm. So. And are you only focusing on the radio station, or are you bringing the guests into a live setting? Yeah, from time to time? Yeah, we have a couple of different venues that we work out of in Durham, and so like what I try to do now is like you have the bigger guys, but if somebody's in town, like Carla was, she was like visiting the United States, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna book you. And she plays. So it's kind of like that's what I'm doing. It's if you're in the area and I know that, I'm booking you.
Nice. We coming.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be. Come on, you gotta be. You got to. Let's go.
Yes.
I mean, we got home.
I want to be everywhere.
Okay.
The world is bigger than us.
I mean,
so let's drop some seeds.
We have some of everything in North Carolina, so
Wonderful.
just come on down.
There's no beach though. No, I'm kidding.
Well, we are known for like the best beaches. So.
Okay. So what's the delicacy? Let's switch subject. What's the delicacy in North Carolina?
Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, we're known for barbecue. That's our thing. But I mean, I would say barbecue, sports, college basketball is everything. Yeah, college basketball is everything. I mean, Michael Jordan is from, Chapel Hill, like UNC. So, I mean, yeah. But let's see. Sports, barbecue, the mountains, obviously. That's one of our big things. And like the Outer Banks beaches. So like Netflix even has a weird cheesy show about the Outer Banks. It's pretty much supposed to be based off of North Carolina. It's lame. But I mean, our beaches are well known as like on the East Coast, like the Hollywood of the East Coast for like beaches. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So we have a couple of things that are like cool, but yeah, barbecue and sports, like we are there.
What about Amsterdam? What made you come to Amsterdam?
So my people's at My House Radio, Sylvian out here, who does like groovers, they were just like, it's time for you to come out here. Like, we need to collaborate. Like, we've known you for a while. You're good at what you do. You're a solid DJ. You need to stop playing around. And ADE's been on my list. And I've been always at Mi Casa. So it's like, unfortunately, you can't do two things at once. So I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And now I'm here. I'm like, yeah, I'm not leaving. Yeah.
It's a nice place. I do like Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So what's on your agenda in the next couple of days?
So I got Cafe Herrengrach. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, I'm not good at this. But I'm playing there tonight, and then I've got Cafe George tomorrow night, and then pretty much gonna be bouncing around, checking out people, like hanging out with J. Paul Ghetto, Hatiras, all my crews, and yeah, probably playing some more gigs somewhere. So that's gonna be it, and eating a bunch of good food. Nice. Yeah.
I'm up for that. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, right. Let's do it.
So yeah, have you got anything? Is there anything else? We got about 5 minutes left. David's jumping in the car, so he's not going to be here. He's going to be here in about 15.
Okay.
Okay. This is it. Do you have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, of course I'll have questions, but
Cue the Jeopardy music.
What about one piece of advice for aspiring DJs? Let's go for a golden.
Wow. Okay. Always be a student and always be positive. Stay humble. Those are my three things I can tell you. So I will say, yeah, always be a student, stay healthy and humble. One, your health is everything. Yeah, we all like to party time to time, have a few drinks, get buzzed, whatever. But you know what? Ultimately, if you're not healthy, then you can't perform and give it all, and that's something that you don't want to have to deal with, So just be healthy. Still have fun, but be healthy. Humble, definitely be humble. As soon as you, like Frankie Knuckles said, as soon as you start thinking you're bigger than the music, you're done. This music does not need large egos. This music does not need for you to be the champion. It needs you to contribute to the movement. That's it. It's not a party scene. It's a movement.
Yeah.
And when you start humbling yourself and always doing that, and you'll start hearing the music different. You'll start seeing things different. You'll start participating different. You will be 100% showing up in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Always be a student. You always got to learn. There's going to be new equipment coming out. There's going to be new music coming out. You're going to change. There's going to be artists that know way more than you do. There's going to be club owners that's going to know way more than you do. Just be a student. Soak it up You know, like I used to always sit beside Roy Davis Jr. and Roy would just be like, "All right, little brother, like we're going into a business meeting. Be quiet and listen." I would sit there and I will learn so much. Um, so just always be a student, you know.
Sharing also the knowledge, I think it's also very
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
You can learn and pass it on.
yeah. You're going to get to a certain phase where you're still going to be a student, but one day you're going to have to be a teacher. It's going to be weird. I'm going through it. And it's like, cause why do you want to learn from me? Like, I don't know much. Like, I just do the thing. And it's like, yeah, but that does. But yeah, you have to share that knowledge because guess what? That's how it passes on. You know?
Yes, I'm having comments here on the chat. Yeah, elevate each other, always support each other, and just give trust and believe also that it's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay not to know also.
Yeah.
It's okay to make a mistake whilst you're streaming and getting things off sync, and it's a cringing, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you never learn. And as long as the music is your intention are positive and come from a place of love, I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, like I tell people, like ignorance is not a bad word. Willful ignorance is a bad word. Being ignorant does not mean you're stupid. Being ignorant is just you just don't know. So then you have that opportunity right there to either learn, like we was talking about earlier, like DIY, or be a student. And once you take that knowledge and learn, if somebody else comes to you, then pass that knowledge on. Don't be willful ignorant, like, oh well, I'm just not gonna learn it. Like. You have a chance. You have knowledge.
Yeah. I riff off the words community, authenticity, and legacy, and I think those three words for where we are right now in this music world, it's super. I have so many conversations about Russian DJs with controllers on IG, and you know what? You know what? What do you say? You can't, right? There are people out there that are doing things, and they're doing it, and we can all complain about it, or you use your platforms in a similar way to try and elevate the art that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Because we can all say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stick my face on a flyer because it puts a different spin on things. But it's a different era. And I absolutely appreciate what Frankie said, right? And it's the right way. But there's so many people out there that are not doing it the Frankie way.
Yeah.
And to be able to, you had to, I'm not a hater. I'm not going to curb these people.
Right.
But I do wonder about the I'm 45. I've experienced lots of great music. West London Broken Beat, Soulful House. Like I was young enough to understand Larry and Nikki and David, and understand where this music came from, and what I had to stop reading Tim Lawrence's book because it just kept on getting me really upset. I was like, this is such a perfect moment in time, which was driven by so many different factors. And then, like 20 years, we can all try and do a loft party, but it's not the same because it's a different time. And to be able to understand that, it's you kind of have to move around a little bit and kind of go, we have this, and how do we make this continue when there's so many people out there that are not part of this? And that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta, like I tell people, it's like we were talking about earlier. You just gotta be able to give people that nostalgic feeling, but also recognize like we're in a new era, and to be able to like marry those two things in harmony, without being exclusive or excluding. And it's a delicate balance, and like I said, I mean, do controllers haven't made a lot of people who probably shouldn't DJ? Yeah. But has it brought out a lot of people who should DJ that never would have had the opportunity to afford the major equipment? Yeah.
What? I'm not hating on controllers. I was DJing downstairs yesterday, and I was like, people are upset about sync buttons, right? But there's the slider. And there's a number on it,
right?
And it's like, okay, I need to get to 120. I move the slider. The sync button is not the problem. Like, if you can't move a slider down 2 BPMs, then you absolutely shouldn't be a DJ. But it's not the problem, guys. Stop talking about the sync button because you are moving the slider to the number. It's as simple as that. Like I learned on vinyl, I can DJ by ear, but it's nice. You know, I'm like, I don't need to think about this anymore. I can just move it down. Like, but people at the sync button, the sync button's going to ruin your life.
Look, I mean, if we're going to like have this last thing about a sync button, I will say this. When you've got 3 CDJs going and one is designated to like sound effects and acapellas on your USB record box folder, if I'm mixing 2 tracks and I want this acapella to go while I'm mixing, I've got to use the sync button on that acapella.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not an octopus, you know, like, you know, like, like if I had an extra arm, awesome, but I'm not Dr. Octagon.
And we're not even talking about stems, right? Now everyone could be DJ Beloved. But anyway, let's leave it there. Let's leave it there.
We won't touch it.
Marshall, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you for gracing us in Amsterdam. We had a plan. It's slowly coming together. And for you to be part of this is super nice.
Hey,
Big
I
up
appreciate
TT
it.
for the connect. And I wish you well for the rest of your Amsterdam stay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and big shout outs to everybody in Twitch land.
Absolutely, guys. If you're not following Marshall, I don't know what your Instagram. I can't. It's
Disco Sapien.
Disco Sapien. But you can also follow DanceGruv Radio on Instagram. If TT's in the chat and she wants to do some work, she could look that up and put it in the chat.
Please.
But on the YouTube archive, we'll link that all nicely for you. If you send me a bio, we'll do something nice. I'll put it into ChatGPT and we can go on a sonic journey.
Yeah, totally.
No, I joke. But like that's cool. We're going to take a little bit of an intermission. I need to set up for David. Maybe we'll mute it. We'll just put a little screen on or something. But big love, guys. Enjoy your time here, and we will speak soon, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate everybody.
Peace.
Be safe.